Welcome to Violent Vinyl Radio, where we break down the best hair metal albums from the 80s and the 90s. So grab that volume up, crank it up, and enjoy the show.
Showtime. Welcome to Violent Vinyl Radio. I'm your host, Des, and as always, I'm joined by my two co-hosts. First up, the podcaster holding all the aces, Dangerous Dave.
All I want to know is if you will or if you won't.
Oh, shit. And last but not least, the podcaster who likes the dark side of the beat, Lisa.
Have at it, boys. It's been that kind of day.
Okie dokie.
Wait a minute. That was Pretty Boy Floyd, the bank robber, not the band.
I like what you did there. As always, the mission of this show is for us to introduce each other and you, the listeners, to albums and bands which you may never have heard before, while also discussing the classics. So sit back and enjoy the show. Dave, where can these guys find the show?
We are available anywhere you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and more. Like and subscribe. Please be sure to leave us a 5-star review.
All right.
Our social medias are at Instagram, VVR Podcast Insta, and at Facebook, we are at Violent Vinyl Podcast.
And I've been getting some personal messages from all over the world from our listeners, actually, and I've had some great conversations with fans and some particularly from Ireland and Germany. Hello, guys. And it's been great.
Nice.
They'll come in.
Yeah.
Fucking A, man.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Nobody ever reaches out to me. Oh, Jay Summerfield reached out to me and he wanted us to break down Pretty Boy Floyd. So Jay, here you go. This one's for you, buddy. Okay. So tonight we will be discussing Leather Boys with Electric Toyz, the debut studio album by Pretty Boy Floyd, produced by Howard Benson, released on October 5th of 1989 on MCA Records. The album peaked at the number 130 spot on the U.S. Billboard 200. It definitely overachieved. I was living in San Francisco at the time. I remember it came out and woo, these guys look great. The band's lineup was as follows. Steve Sex Summers on lead vocals. Christy Crash Majors on guitars and backing vocals. Vinny Chaz on bass and backing vocals, and Kerry Kane on drums and backing vocals. We're going to get into it. There was somebody with a bit more talent than these gentlemen on backing vocals. We don't know who it is, but there was a extremely good singer singing on this album. I'm going to be referring to him as the mystery singer tonight. Okay, so let's share some opening thoughts on this one. So I haven't listened to this album in 35 years, right? I popped it in and it was pretty much exactly how I remembered it, with a couple of exceptions, one of them being Christy Crash Majors. I remembered him being better. I can't review this album like a Poison album or even like a Faster Pussycat album, because these guys just weren't at that level of musicianship yet. They just weren't that good. I mean, they were very, very green, and it shows up on the recording. But with that being said, it is a snapshot of a time when an amazing image and a glorified demo, which this is, could temporarily put you on the map. Unfortunately, Uncle Tom's Cabin from Warrant popped up on Pandora right after this Pretty Boy Floyd album finished. And it made this sound like a demo made by teenagers, right? I mean, it just did. You listen to Uncle Tom's Cabin, it's like, you know, this is a glam band. They're young dudes, but they were all very seasoned. They could play. And even like Faster Pussycat. I mean, you know, Greg Steele, Brent Muscat. I mean, these guys were at least 2 or 3, 4, 5 levels above where Christy Crash was as guitar players. Tammy Down, not a great singer, but had a bunch of style and knew what he wanted to deliver. And it was just a thing, and it really worked, and it sounded very polished. And even a guy that is vocally limited as Tammy Down still was so far ahead of where Steve Summers was at the time of recording this album that I can't do it in the same universe because they're not there. So the real question was, I had to ask myself, is this album still fun enough to overlook the potholes in it? I don't know. Let's find out. Dave, were you familiar with the album? I know you were because you sent me a picture of your band opening for Pretty Boy Floyd. So,
Yep. Goddamn right.
okay.
So we're doing opening thoughts, or
Do
we're
we
doing
want to do
band
opening
facts?
thoughts or facts first?
We're going to do opening thoughts and then we'll roll into facts just because I took my edible early and that's the way we're doing it.
All right. So this is going to take a while.
Okay.
I've heard it before a few times. Okay. Here's story time. I knew nothing about them in the 80s, completely missed the MTV videos, knowing anything about this band. Probably early 1997, I was dating a girl, and she hands me a cassette out of her collection to check out. Here, you might like this. And I take a look at it, examining the frankly amateurish drawing of the band on the front, to the black leather clad photos on the inside. There's no feather boas and lace like Poison wore. They had a bunch of makeup, but maybe looked a little more street, I guess. I listened to it and was immediately impressed by just how cheesy it was.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
without shame, sugar-coated cheese with a Z.
Mm-hmm.
I kept listening and it grew on me, eventually to the point where the tape stayed in my car stereo for good. I still have that tape today somewhere, but it is worn out. Also around this time, partially influenced by this, I started dyeing my hair jet black and putting on makeup to go out to the clubs. Later, another friend would find the album on CD for me back when it was unobtainable. There was no reissues or Amazon.com or anything like that yet. I also found another copy on CD that I also have. This is one of the few albums that if I see it in a used record store, I'll just buy it, just in case. Just in case all the other copies in the world disappear. That may be tipping my hat for the score I'll be giving, but here we are. As we mentioned, my old band Demon's Alley opened for them in July of 2007 at the Lucky Dog in Worcester.
Nice.
Got my picture with Steve after the show. Pretty sure he was playing with none of the other original guys, just him. I also saw them at the Vault in New Bedford, Massachusetts, just a couple of years ago, and it was a great time.
Nice. Is that what you got? Is that it?
Yep.
I
That's
love
my
it.
intro.
It's a fucking great intro, dude. Lisa, I don't know what to expect from you here. I mean, you could either love this or hate this. I just
Yeah.
don't know. Talk to us.
Okay, so definitely have listened to this before the podcast. Back in '89, and I was in high school, and sitting directly behind me in homeroom was friend to the show, Sean Martello, drummer
Nice.
extraordinaire in a
Hey.
band, I believe with Des a couple times, or yeah.
Yes, several bands.
So he used to steal my magazines, Metal Edge and Circuit, all the Kerrang
Parader.
and Hit Parader. Yeah, he used to steal them. And there was this one day where he came to me and he goes, "Oh my God, look at this band." And he shows me the photo and they're all like crazy hair and makeup and leather and like super freaking cool. And I was like, wow, that's great. What do they sound like? He's like, who cares? Look at them.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that was my introduction to them. I remember that the album amongst my friends group was not very well received. This was a cheese album, right? This was super syrupy, sticky sweet, and a lot of people just didn't like it, right? I was into heavier music. I was listening to black metal at the time and goth. Depeche Mode was big in my collection. But for some reason, back in the day, I loved this album. It had just the right amount of like silliness and fun, and like you didn't have to think when you listened to this album. It was just like like a party album, right?
Yep.
A little bit mindless. You don't need concentration. There was nothing emotional. There was no crying going on like the goth music, right?
No.
And sometimes you just needed a little fun. So I had to do this re-listen. I haven't heard this album in decades. I would say maybe a song here and there because obviously Dave listens to them on
Weekly.
repeat, right?
Oh God.
But not with me around. It's just not my thing anymore. So I tried to look at this album through the eyes of it's fun. So
That's how I had to go back and do the same thing. I listened to it the first time, and I'd written out a opening thought that was really mean, actually. Okay, something about like how it sounded like Poison's roadies recorded the album. The bus
Mm,
driver did the singing, something
mm.
terrible like that. But then I went back, I listened to it again, and I said, just don't do that. Don't be an old guy like the old like yeah, this the music. No, I put it back on. I took myself back to 1989. I listened to it, and we're gonna get into it. But same as you, Lisa. I saw the picture in Kerrang! Magazine, and
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh my
Oh my
god."
god,
And then
yeah.
I bought the album and I listened to it, and I wanted to like it so bad, and I did. I mean, this is an album. The strength is the songs, not the
Mm.
performance, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember listening to it, and even back in 1989, as much as I wanted to love it because I just thought these guys looked great, it still felt suspicious to me, right? I'm
Mm.
like, this is suspect. Like
Yeah,
this is not Poison. Like this doesn't feel like it's up to snuff. Something's off.
yeah,
And what
and
was off was they're just green.
yeah, and they weren't like they didn't have the really feminine look like Poison. It
Mm.
was like you took Poison and LA Guns and you put it in a blender and you got out these pretty guys that had a rock edge and a little bit of, whatever. The music was very sugary, syrupy, sweet, but their look was much edgier, and I think that's what
I
what
think
I
you
like.
got that. I
Yeah,
like that comparison. LA Guns meets Poison. I
for
mean,
their look, for
it
their look.
definitely
Yeah.
swung. Yeah. Oh, look
Mm.
only. Definitely
Yeah.
swung more towards the Poison side.
Yeah, yeah.
But
But
it's
at
I
least
get
they had less feminine,
yeah.
stuff, so
Yeah, I get you. I get you. I mean, Vinny Chaz was pretty hot looking
mm.
dude, chick,
They're
guy.
all very pretty,
They
so
are. They are. Cool. All right. Completely confused because I've gone out of order here today. So, would you
Yeah,
guys like to go for band facts next?
sure.
Okay, I don't usually have any, but I do have just one quick one for this, and it's not really a fact. So anybody who follows this band or Christy Crash, and he tried to come out with another solo album. I don't know if he ever released it or not, but there were talks about how somebody had, accused him of plagiarizing or borrowing ideas, whatever. And
it wasn't just an
yeah,
accusation, it was
okay,
an
so
absolute fact.
and that was for Christy Crash's solo album. And
Yeah,
then for this album, apparently a guy named Ariel Styles, who played in the band called Doll, wrote this album.
yes.
And they actually performed these songs and stuff. And then he was part of forming Pretty Boy Floyd. And when he was unable to continue with that, they just stole his songs, did a record, and wiped his name off the back. So I don't know
Yeah.
how much of that is 100% true. I'm sure Lisa will let us know after Dave gives us his facts. You like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dave is gonna have a lot more to say on this album, I think, than I will because he is a super fan, so
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay.
All right. The band was formed in 1987 and, according to Wikipedia, broke up between 1994 and 95 and have been playing ever since with many, many lineup changes, including people we know. Both Eric Griffin and Ben Graves from the Murder Dolls, rest in
And
peace.
my band, the Boston Brats.
Mhm.
Rest in peace, Ben. Have both played in the band, as well as Leslie Sanders from Prophets of Addiction, who I've played a bunch of shows with, and Jimmy Mess from the Prophets and also the Midnight Devils.
Yes.
Those guys have all been in Pretty Boy Floyd. Currently, Steve Summers is the only original member performing with the band.
I like Messi. He's cool.
Yeah, those guys are all cool. Christy Crash was not their original guitar player, as we mentioned, for the first year, and then again from 1991 to 1994, Ariel Styles was their guitar player. He purportedly created the sound of the band and wrote all the songs. When no songwriting credits were put on the album, including the Motley Crue cover, he had to take legal action and eventually negotiated a settlement with the band. He was part of several other bands and now works as a songwriter and producer in Nashville, doing production for radio jingles, songwriter demos, and master tracks for film and television.
Cool.
Probably a lot more lucrative than being in a rock band.
Yeah.
Pretty Boy Floyd was the cover subject of hard rock magazine Kerrang! On December 16th, 1989. They also appeared on 2 film soundtracks. First, the demo version of 48 Hours was included on the 1989 film Karate Kid Part 3 soundtrack.
And just as if you notice how they are billed on that album, it is connected to a controversy we will talk about later.
Yep, we're getting to that one.
Mm-hmm.
They were billed on the soundtrack as PBF,
Mm-hmm.
not as Pretty Boy Floyd. A couple years later, the previously unreleased Slam Dunk was released on the 1991 movie Switch soundtrack.
Hmm.
Original bassist Vinny Chaz died in April of 2010 from heart failure. According to findagrave.com, his final resting place is Fur Lane Memorial Park in Washington State, and that he was school friends with Jerry Cantrell, and he actually passed up joining Alice in Chains.
Oh, that was a bad choice.
Mm.
Bad move.
Bad
We
move.
can't always, see the future.
Yeah. Retrospect.
So yeah, now we're going to get to that other thing. These guys are not the only Pretty Boy Floyd, even besides the bank robber. There was a band by the same name in Canada that released their debut, Bullets and Lipstick, that
Ooh.
same year.
Yikes.
There was some legal wrangling and trademark dispute between the two bands. Eventually, Canadian Pretty Boy Floyd changed their name to Tommy Floyd, the name of their lead singer.
Oh.
In an article on metal-rules.com, he still sounds pretty salty about the whole thing.
I'll bet.
Well,
It's a shitty name.
I mean, think about what was happening back in the day, though. If you were in the US, you had no idea about a band that was playing in Canada. There was no internet. There was no copyright laws that would go across international lines. Like they had no idea that there was another band of that name. And the funny thing is that nowadays, if there was some kind of lawsuit like this, it would take years to settle something like that. It would go through the courts. It would be a horrible fight. But all that this settlement took was a fast phone call in less than a few days, and they accepted a very large cash settlement from the record label to use the name. So
And then when the album didn't sell, the record label was like, fuck.
yeah, and that band actually toured with Skid Row, Hurricane, Sabotage, some big
Really?
names. So they weren't small by any means.
I wonder if we can listen to this album. What does it sound like,
You
Dave?
can. It's good. It's a little
It's
sleazier. Yeah.
Yeah, I checked out some of it. It's okay. I don't like it as much. Sounds a little bit like Kicks.
Yeah, I like it a little better.
Okay.
It's sleazier. It's more metal. Yeah.
But the first song on the album is called "Welcome to the Show." That's probably the best one I heard. I listened to about 3/4 of it of the album, but
It reminded me of a lot of albums that, first albums that came out around the time where you had a couple of good songs and a lot of fillers. A lot of at first albums were like that. So, yeah.
but they are on. It's on YouTube. You
Mhm.
can just type in like Pretty Boy Floyd Canada or something like that.
Oh,
Or
cool.
bullets and
How
lipstick.
did they look?
I don't know. I didn't really look at any pictures when I was looking for stuff for this. I saw maybe a few pictures of them live, and they look kind of boring.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
just like generic rock and roll look. It wasn't like the super glam look.
Okay. Well, it sounds like the right band got the name.
So, yep, got one left. The album was recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and the producer, as we mentioned, was Howard Benson. Howard Benson was nominated for several Grammy Awards in the 2000s, and he won in 2013 for his work with Kelly Clarkson and Hailstorm.
Ooh, nice.
He also played Step Up in the World.
Right.
He also played keyboards on this album and has produced albums for TSOL, Bang Tango, Sepultura, and more. He's also created successful studio software recording plugins. All info is available on his impressive website, howardbenson.com.
I mean, honestly, considering what he was working with, how green these guys were as musicians at the time, I think he squeezed every drop out of what they had to offer. I mean, really. And I don't say this as an insult. I mean, Pretty Boy Floyd did more than I'll ever do, and there's no shame in, making a pro album and getting to that level. But I mean, a fact is a fact. These guys weren't ready. They were not good enough musicians, and that's why this album did what it did, which is not enough. I mean, literally, CC DeVille is Eddie Van Halen compared to Christy Crash at this time. Right? I mean, that's just how much further along these other Hollywood bands were.
Didn't they only play a handful of shows before they got signed? They played like 7 or 8 shows
Yeah, it was very
before they got their
fast.
record deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
And
It was
remember, in 1989, that's what was happening. Is if you had the look, they were giving you,
Yeah, throwing
an
money at you.
agreement.
which
Yeah.
is what I said. Is if you had a great promo picture and like a glorified demo, you could be a star for a minute.
Yeah.
But if you weren't good enough, it wasn't gonna pick up traction.
Mm.
Lisa, talk about it.
I'm surprised that's all you had. So, okay, let's go. Let's talk about some of the writing on this album, right? A lot of our albums we can pinpoint who wrote the songs. On this album, we have a mishmash of songs coming from before they were a band, from Ariel Styles, from Carrie Dahl. Steve Summers claims that he owns the band and all of the songs. And yeah, some of them were rewritten and reused, and that's just how bands go. I don't like that answer because I think I don't think much of this music came from Steve at all. I wonder if he wrote anything,
No,
honestly.
I doubt
Yeah.
it.
So I think everything came from other sources, and that makes me a little sad. So remember in 1989, we're kind of late in the glam years, right? So bubblegum glam, which really started kind of in 85, 86, was past its prime at this point, and glam was on the way down. So this was a hard year. You had big albums. You had Skid Row's first album coming out this year, so there was a lot of really, really talented musicians with great stuff coming out. And I think if this album had come out a few years earlier, it may have done a little bit better.
Tougher Rock was coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So their album cover, sort of like they describe it as a comic book cover. They called themselves glam rock superstars or glam rock superheroes.
Kind of like Detroit Rock City, right?
Yeah. So Steve has said that MCA toyed with their photos. The interior photos are heavily airbrushed and altered and don't even really look like how they really looked back in the day. They weren't super happy with it, but they didn't care. They were getting an album and their heroes were Kiss and Poison, so they were like, fine, go with it. It's okay. And the name of the album, right? Leather Boyz with electric toys, right? It makes me think of the Rock of Ages, the Z guys, right?
Yeah.
Double the E, double the Z, double the flavor. Just
Sure.
yikes. Yeah. So MCA was their record label, and if we remember what MCA was back in the day, they were not a glam label, right? Steve will tell you now that the reason that their album didn't do so well was because of MCA's screw ups, basically. And they were promised a lot from MCA, basically, like, we're going to make you our Kiss, we're going to make you superstars, we're going to throw all this stuff behind you. And Steve says they put nothing behind the band and gave them no support at all, right? They were dealing with Elton John and Tom Petty and Night Ranger, which was my first concert of all time.
Nice.
For glam, they had XYZ, I think, was like their big one, and like that's not a big band for that, right? The band basically wasn't put on great tours. You didn't see them with any of the big traveling bands. They didn't get any support or rotation really on MTV. They were put basically on the air at like 2 a.m. And nobody got to see them. And because of that, they didn't make it on Dial MTV, which at the time was the only way you were going to get MTV play. So
they were on the Headbangers Ball. I just watched it
at 2 a.m.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, they hosted the Headbangers Ball.
Yeah,
with
but
Adam Curry.
It was the middle of the night though.
Yeah.
When that was out. So
Yeah.
they, Dial MTV was on at 6 p.m. Eastern. So
Right.
they didn't get that slot.
I
So,
gotcha.
So they were mad at MCA for not pushing that as much. By 1998, so this would have been 11 years after the album came out, they had sold a few 100,000 copies worldwide. That's basically a failure, right?
Yeah.
Especially when there was no technically follow-up album, right? I would call them kind of a flash in the pan at that point. Other comparable acts at the time, like we looked at Extreme, what was it, 2 weeks ago or 2 shows ago, and they had their first album was 300,000 copies, but their second album was a super platinum hit, right? So so that's the difference. Okay, so let's go into the guys.
But the talent level wasn't there for these guys to record a song like More Than Words. Or
no,
like
absolutely.
or even Every Rose Has a Thorn. Like they just didn't have that talent level to produce
They
that.
couldn't have written it either.
They couldn't have performed it.
Yeah.
They couldn't have performed it properly.
Unless they called that other guy.
Unless they
Yeah.
called the other guy.
Unless they called the other guy.
But Lisa, what I did want to say was the one like charm of this album, like you were talking about how it was written in different spots.
Yeah.
It sounds like a cohesive
It
body of
does.
work.
Yeah.
Like every song belongs together, and the flow of the album is really quite good.
And that may be because they took, these songs in their infancy and did kind of rewrite them and reshape them into what turned out to be an album. So yeah,
Yeah.
there was definitely some rewriting, but these aren't original ideas from the band, right?
Right.
So yeah. Okay, so a lot of controversy about Steve Summers. So the one good thing I'm going to say about him is that he's very prolific as far as pushing his band, marketing his band, being out there in front of people, talking to fans, doing interviews. He is in front of everyone. Even to this day, you can find interviews with him everywhere.
Keeping it going.
He is a marketing master, really.
Does he wear a wig?
Yes.
Okay. But the question is, did he wear a wig in 1989?
Unclear. I don't think so.
I hope not, because he had great hair.
Yeah, or maybe extensions. I don't know. I don't think that was completely
I like to
fake.
believe it was
Yeah.
his. Let's just believe it was his.
Yeah. The reason that he does all of this is because he explains, and not just him, but the whole band back at the time, they remembered what it was like to go to a show and get to meet the band, like kind of like meet your heroes. And they had this kind of mindset that they would always go and meet the fans after the show. That was kind of their thing. So if you went to a Pretty Boy Floyd show, you had an opportunity to meet the band, and it wasn't always like that for other bands. So I have some respect for that.
Yeah.
He's fun to listen to. If you listen to his interviews now, he's a funny guy. He's definitely solid in front of the camera. He's interesting, right? Personable, yeah. So with Christy, there's been a lot of controversy between the two. Christy being in and out of the band over the years, lots of kind of fights going on between them. Christy has another band from 2014 called Thrill Kills, which consisted of two previous members of Pretty Boy Floyd, and has an album and all of that. I don't know if you've heard them, but they're much more punk than Pretty Boy Floyd is. Raw and sleazy, actually, kind
I've
of like
looked
them.
for that album and I couldn't find it anywhere.
Really?
There's
Not even on YouTube.
really.
Oh shit.
I found some of it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, there's actually some live video of them. It's very, very punk, much more punk, almost no glam, just very punk and rock, and it's pretty good.
Cool.
So the controversy between Steve and Christy, and this is according to public postings that Christy has made, public postings that Steve has made, and also a little bit of insider information of, we'll just say, people that know them very well in person. Basically, Christy says that Steve is selling Pretty Boy Floyd memorabilia to fans at a premium price that isn't actually original Pretty Boy Floyd memorabilia. So there have been things like a guitar and a jacket and all of that attributed to Christy that were not actually his. They were just items bought, at a flea market or on, that matched the items from back in the day, but were like repackaged and whatever and sold at a premium.
The man's an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, the accusation is that Steve and his wife Delphine basically worked together to kind of scam the fans out of money. This is a legal accusation. There is an ongoing lawsuit about this, that they were kind of passing off fake memorabilia. They also were selling what they were calling VIP access to the band, even as recently as the M3 Rock Festival, which was a very recent thing, when the band always met the fans after for no additional premium price. So just kind of scamming people out of money, and Delphine apparently using the money for some questionable things, some surgical enhancements and some other stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, at the same time, Christy has been accused of stealing music from the band Sucker Punch.
Yes.
So this is a band from LA with Gary Ivan from the London Choir Boys, who is an absolute jerk, by the way.
Nice.
He's now in a band called The Long Shadows with Mick Cripps from LA Guns. Super, super jerk, though. Also in Sucker Punch was Pat Mozingo and Tim Mosher from Junkyard.
Pat Mozingo, who appeared on this show. Hello, Pat Mozingo.
Hello, Pat. And both wonderful guys, friends to the show, both of them. Members of the Cult and Bad Religion in that band as well. Basically, the accusation is he just ripped those songs from Sucker Punch, created his, put it out as his solo album, and life went on. He was never in that band either. He just heard them play and took the song. So that's
Nice.
the accusation. We've heard this directly from people in the band Sucker Punch. So it isn't a controversial thing. It's what they say happened. So
What about Mick Cripps? Nice guy?
I've only met him like kind of as a fan. He was nice to me.
Nice.
And I
It's
don't
like
really know
Mick
him very
Cripps.
well, but yeah.
He was cool.
Yeah. So as part of this kind of, fake memorabilia and stealing music and all of these accusations kind of being thrown around at each other, Christy has posted photos on social media of Steve without his wig.
Nice.
Very unflattering
Yeah,
photos.
very
Is he
unflattering.
bald?
No makeup.
He has like Einstein hair, I would call it. Yeah. Yeah, and let me just say, that's not a cool thing to do.
Oh,
That's horrible. But at the same time, in retaliation,
It's kind of funny though.
this was in retaliation for Steve posting photos of Christy that were not filtered. So Christy's photos on social media, if you've seen them, are heavily filtered. He doesn't actually look like his photos online. So Steve posted real photos and accused him very cruelly of gaining weight. Now let's be fair. These guys were super skinny back in the day.
yeah.
I hope that they gained some weight as they aged, but it was like a horrible accusation that he had gained weight and was living off his girlfriend or women and wasn't doing anything with his life. So this fight was kind of going back and forth between them. There is an ongoing lawsuit, which is why you haven't seen any more recent postings. I think May of 2024 was the last word from any of them because it's actually in the courts right now.
Dude, it's so like, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares, these guys? Seriously. Holy
Yeah.
shit. So irrelevant.
You can still see some of this mudslinging on Christy's Facebook page
Yeah.
at facebook.com/Christy K Majors.
Yep.
It's fun.
Oh, they're so irrelevant. This is
Yeah,
this
and
is
that's
adorable.
And that's
Yeah,
only
this is grown men fighting over.
And that's only a
Couple
small
$100.
portion of the post. A lot of the posts were removed.
Yeah.
So what's up there is a small portion of the original post.
I can still fit into my green lip service pants from
I
1990.
have lip service pants too. Oh my god.
Put them on right now.
Yeah.
I'm actually wearing them.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Okay. So let's move on to Vinny Chaz. Obviously, we know that he did pass away.
Yes.
And he was actually in several bands with his high school friend, Jared Cantrell, before Alice in Chains. And, maybe that was a good decision. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe Alice in Chains wouldn't have been the band that it was had he joined that band. I don't know how that would have gone, but yeah. Steve Summers, and, we've already learned that he's been kind of shit-talking everyone, insinuates that Vinny had a serious drug habit. None of this is confirmed. He has passed and can't speak for himself.
Right.
But there's interviews out there where Steve states that and saying that there was no second album, basically because it probably would have been too much for Vinny. Vinny had said that it was too much to work in this band. It was not a fun work environment. It was unhealthy for him. I totally get that.
Sounds toxic.
Yeah. So they lost contact when Vinny moved to Washington and had no contact at all after 1993. The report is that he died from heart failure. This is questionable. His coworkers, he worked at a business in Washington. His coworkers at the time said that basically he would just go to work and go home. He was just a regular guy. He wasn't a crazy rock star. Or he didn't have a drug problem that they knew about at the time at all. And one day he just didn't show up for work, and he was found at his house. And heart failure on a death certificate, you don't really like heart failure. Everybody dies from heart failure, right?
Pretty
can cover-
obscure.
Yeah,
Cover a lot of ground.
yeah. So unclear, but yeah, it's sad that he passed.
Stop breathing.
Yeah. So Carrie Kane. It's interesting when you go and you look for Carrie Kane online that it's very difficult to find anything on him under that name. Anyway. And that's basically because he is a really private person. And because he has a connection to the show through Ken Dean, tattoo artist extraordinaire, we do have some information on what he's up to now. He says that, and this is a quote from Ken from all his dealings with him over many decades. Carey claims that he doesn't remember touring with Pretty Boy Floyd because he was so incredibly fucked up on drugs. Like
Oh
most of his
shit.
memories from that time frame are completely gone. He was a session drummer for many, many acts, including Bon Jovi. He didn't have his name on the albums because if they put his name on the albums, they were offering him much less money. And he was paid handsomely for doing the work and not taking credit for it.
It's funny. He's going to be one of the musicians that I speak of fondly. I think he might have been up
Yeah.
to the task,
Yeah, yeah,
but it wasn't enough to save this record.
yeah. He had an absolutely terrible relationship with Steve. He actively hates him. The breakup of this band caused him to cut off all his hair and walk away from music for good. He no longer goes by his stage name. I won't out his real name because I think while he does say who he is online, it's not a big connection between the two. So we're gonna leave that private. He reportedly has turned to snowboarding or skateboarding as not just a hobby but a business. He's also a makeup artist. Um, One of the memories that Carey has of working with Pretty Boy Floyd was going to other countries, particularly Japan, where the kids would make toys and dolls of the band and give them to the band as
Oh,
gifts.
cool.
And he still has those dolls to this day and remembers them very fondly. So if anybody is listening and gave them some toys, Carey very much appreciated that and still remembers
And
it to
Steve
this day.
Summers is selling knockoffs of those dolls
Right,
on
isn't that
his
awful?
eBay account. So there you
Yeah.
go.
Carey has a lot of pretty horrible stories of Steve's activity back in the day, including some things that he did on the tour bus that were pretty offensive, both towards the band members and towards women. I won't go into details on
Oh,
that, but
please do.
no, it's
Legally, we
legally
probably
we
shouldn't.
shouldn't, and
Okay.
like I'm very serious about this.
Okay.
Horrifying stories that I was actually shocked to hear myself. So
Nice. And this was
um,
Steve Summers?
about Steve, yes.
That's my hero.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm not going to share the actual stories. It's horrible,
All
really.
right.
Naughty behavior.
Could he be hanging around with, I don't know, let's say Marilyn Manson?
No, it's worse than that.
Oh, worse than Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
Oh, and yet we're gonna review this album. I'm
Yeah,
proud of
we're
you,
gonna review
Lisa.
this album,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So, what else do we got? Is that it?
That's it.
All right. Very nice. And you said you didn't bring any facts. Come on. We all
Just
knew that
about
was
just
a lie.
personal facts about the guy.
I love it
That's
too.
all
I'm
I
like,
got.
Lisa, so what do
Yeah.
you hear about Mixed Crips? Is he a nice guy? You're like, well, I've only met him 15 times. You know, is there
You know,
any
I've
one I'm going to
almost
ask?
I've almost never seen this band live, right? I actually saw them, I believe, the day that they played with Dave, although I don't have very much memory of that show either. And I think I've only seen them maybe once or twice outside of that, once in Hollywood and I think once in Vegas.
So you've seen Pretty Boy Floyd multiple times as well?
Just 3 times, yeah.
Just 3?
Which is
Okay.
like nothing, yeah.
Just 3.
And one I don't even remember.
Just 3, and she's only met McCrips twice, so there you go. Yeah. Okay, awesome. So let's rate the singer. As always, it's 1 through 100. 25 on hair, 25 on stage and style, and 50% on vocal talent. So there you go. I will get us started. So Steve Sex Summers, he had great hair. He did. It was thick. It was brown. It was cool. 24 points right there. He had a cool red leather suit with patent leather shoes. Again, very
What a
cool.
Great look.
Great
Oh,
look. Gonna get it in the big black bolo hat, whatever. Very cool. So he's gonna get another 25 points right there. But his fairly limited vocal talent definitely dings him a little. But he does bring sort of a bratty Vince Neil LA vibe, which I dug. And he does get some help from a very talented, mysterious vocalist who shows up in all the choruses. So I'm going to give him a generous 19.1 points for vocal talent, even though that is way too high for a score of 67.1 points. That's what I got. Dave.
All right. Well, this is a tough one. Let's be real here. Steve is not the greatest singer. He's working with what he's got.
Yes.
No offense, of course. The hair looks nice, but I've also heard rumors that it's always been a wig. But that's just a rumor. He's got an even stronger hat and bandana game than Bret Michaels. So we're going with 12 here. 22 for style and stage presence. He puts on a great show. He gets involved with the crowd, and again, great hats and bandanas. 25 on vocal talent. He's okay, definitely has a signature tone, but sometimes can struggle a little. I even heard a few notes on this album that were not 100%.
A few? A few?
Yes.
Okay.
My total score for Steve Sex Summers is 59.
Dave, I heard a few in every single song. So mostly in the verses though, because when the choruses came in, this was Queen. Like when the choruses come in, we're listening to Queen. 5-part harmonies, strong as hell, fucking full on. And then the verse comes back in, you're like, okay, there's something going on here, Lisa. And I'm drinking fucking peppermint tea tonight. This hasn't even got caffeine in it.
Oh.
Oh.
So his name just makes me cringe. You know, like, come on, just be Steve Summers. And you know what's funny is that Christy Crash Major should also make me cringe, but Steve Sex Summers makes me cringe so much that I forgive the crash in Christy Crash's name. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
This guy had friggin' great hair. I don't care if it was a wig or not. It
Yes.
doesn't matter to me. It was friggin' brilliant. Like the whole band had like amazing hair. Lots of black, and I like that he had black hair and he was a front man when most of the front men at the time were blondes. So that was huge for me. I love that. Very
Yeah.
pretty guy, very photogenic band across the board. They looked great in the magazines. You know, my first introduction to them was just because of how they looked. Who cared how they sounded, right? He took a lot of time with his style, those huge brimmed hats, lots of accessories, liquid vinyl clothing. He had appropriate makeup, maybe not as glam as Poison, which was actually a good thing. They did get a bad rap for being a little too feminine back in the day, but I liked it. Stage presence is good. He doesn't really dance, but he moves around the stage and he talks to the audience and he does like funny poses with the other band members and like kind of like gags on stage. Um, his voice, so he has that whine that I like. And when we've talked about this before, the Davy Vane whine, the Tammy Downs whine, I'm not saying that he has a good as a voice then, but that was the reason that I liked the album, was that little whine to his voice. Now, having said that, he can't hit the high notes. His voice is shaky, very uncontrolled, even on the album, but even more so live back in the day. Now, that has changed a little bit. So if you watch the more modern stuff, yeah, he still is not the best vocals that there is, but his voice has deepened. And I don't know if that's, change in his body or growth or whatever it is. His voice has deepened. He's got a little more control over it. He still can't hit the high notes, but he's still a great front man. He's styled more gothy now, a little more like Tammy Down with a signature hat. And he wears the Tammy Down hat sometimes, but he also wears that cowboy hat, like those two signature hats. And better, he still looks good.
Yeah, Steve looks great.
Yeah. Um, I would prefer, like, I like the sleaziness in his voice, but when he tries to go sweet, that's where I I just don't like it.
Yep.
So the score that I'm gonna give him, I'm taking a lot off for his vocals, and I feel really kind of sad about this and kind of harsh about this because they looked so friggin' great, right? He was a great front man because he had that he had that look, he had the it factor.
Sure.
But I'm giving him a 74.1.
I think that's pretty high for Steve Summers.
Quite generous.
I think that's quite generous. I think Dave gave him a bad rap though, like on the maybe it's a wig. Like, what if it was real hair? Then what's the score?
Who cares? I don't care.
I was just throwing it out there that I heard that, but
Well, you gave him
it
12
looked
on his
great.
hair.
Eh,
It was brown too, Lisa, and that's what I kind of liked about
Yeah,
it. It was like a
that's what I
chestnut.
liked.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was like so different than what everybody else was doing, so it
Yeah.
really stood out.
It was great.
Yeah. So, what does he score on the Violent Vinyl Frontman Leaderboard?
Well,
no, hold on one second. Sorry.
yeah, we're still doing the calculations.
All
We
right.
need some music here. Okay. So on the Violent Vinyl frontman leaderboard, I guess as expected, Steve Sex Summers comes in at number 11 with a total score of 66.73. That puts him just below David Coverdale and just above Gary Sharon.
Dude, I'd listen to this album. I'd listen to this album 100 times in a row before I'd ever listen to that Extreme album one more time. So
Yeah,
there you go.
same.
Dude, the way I'll tell you one thing though about this album, the way he sings, like, I saw you coming home the other day from school. Like, what's school? Like, he does this all over this album. He makes up his own pronunciations for words. It's like he's trying to do like a Vince Neil impersonation, but it just gets away from him.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go, everybody. Let's get into this album. So track number 1 is Leather Boys with the aforementioned electric toys. I think what we're meant to believe is these are electric guitars and basses, not dildos, correct? Or was it supposed to be dildos? I don't know. I'm
My
confused.
first thought was the sex toys.
Okay, I'm
So,
confused. I'm confused.
yeah.
I think it's cooler if it's guitars and basses
Mm.
at this point, but whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so the production on this tune, it's not horrible. But through the album, it's clear that there is a studio singer punching up Steve's vocals. He's propping up the lead vocal. He's showing up in the choruses in crucial spots on the album. I have no proof of this, and I also have no problem with it because it made the album way better. It's like, fuck it, do it. Who cares? As for the song, it's exactly how I remembered it. Right off the bat, double bass is good. The drum is good. I think all his playing is really decent. There is a weird little hi-hat thing they're doing. It's over in my right ear, and it just sounded off to me. I thought the drums were really good, except for that. It definitely stood out. Bass is super simple, but he's getting the job done. It's pretty buried in the mix. Really doesn't matter what he's playing. There's a couple of spots where there's a break on the album, and he plays like a little run, and it's super basic. I mean, it's something you would expect on like a first demo. Steve Summers does some of his best work on this song. The guitar solo, it's not great. It's not great. It's so repetitive and janky. He plays like the same scale like 3 times, and the whole thing is just a disaster. The solo's not good. But overall, I really like the song a lot. Dave.
We open with an atmospheric intro, slightly reminiscent of Motley Crue's In the
Oh
Beginning,
wow,
Dave
that's
loves
pushing
this
it.
album. Dave loves this album.
but with no voiceover speech. Killer double bass drumming starts the song, followed by a doubled guitar riff. Some background vocal woes bring in the main vocal. Pretty great opener. I thought the guitar solo was fine. It works great for the song. Cool breakdown in the middle, and they bring that energy back up for the chorus to come back in tonight.
Dude, they really swung for the fences with the background vocals. Lisa, what you think of the opening track?
So we start with the title track, which is not very common. A bit of a movie trailer beginning, directly into a drum opening, which is pretty good. And really my favorite part of probably any song we're going to say is the gang vocals, the background vocals in this song, the whoa vocals. I thought that the background vocals on this album were the rest of the band, and I said, geez, these guys sound freaking great. But now you've got it in my head that there might be other singers on this, like punching this up a bit.
There are.
Definitely. There are.
But that's my favorite part of the album.
We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, really great background vocals on this whole album, not just this song. I like the voice on this album, the whine, the Davey Vayner, the Tammy Down whine. I remember how much I loved this back in the day. Super catchy chorus. It's a very bubblegum song, but honestly, it's a little more metal than my memories came through to me. It's a little heavier than I remember. Lyrics are cheesy in 80s, but they're delivered angry and sleazy. And, kudos to Steve on that. I did like that. The guitar solo, I think it fits the song. That was my note. I don't think it's great. There's no virtuoso going on here, but it is fitting to the song. The bridge after the solo with the additional drum solo. Here's the thing. In this section with the bridge, are these drums synth?
I don't think so.
They sound synth to me. They sounded tinny and like not. There's something wrong with them.
In after the guitar solo,
bridge.
before
In the
the
bridge.
double bass comes in
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No, it
either
sounds like-
that or they overproduced it. Like
Sounds
I
like
don't
regular
know.
drums to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah,
I don't
catch
hear
it.
this in the rest of the song. It was just that little section.
That one spot.
I like it, I like that part when, even if I like synth, so why wouldn't I like it? And his voice gets a little sweeter. I love the ending when they slow it down. It's a nice stick. It's a perfect, dirty, sleazy stick ending at the end of this song. I really like that. Overall, a great opening to the album. I'm already invested and pleasantly surprised that it, kind of fits with my memories, even better than my memories because it's more metal than I remember. There's no official video for this song. I'm really sad about that because this was kind of, for me, the big song on this album.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of live footage of this.
Cool. I was a little
Signature
janky.
song.
I came a little janky in that first song, but I'm gonna relax a little bit. I'm gonna ease into this one like a warm bath. So, rock and roll is gonna set the night on fire. This opening guitar sound is so unbelievably compressed and overprocessed. I, for the most part, don't love the guitars on this album, and this solo is supposed to, I mean, it's modeled after the solo from Talk Dirty to me. It just is. I mean, listen to it, listen to Talk Dirty to me. This is where you got the idea. The problem is CC DeVille is Eddie Van Halen compared to Christy Crash. He cannot pull the solo off. It's not memorable. It's not melodic. It's not good. But again, overall, it's a really, really fun song. I mean, Steve Summers is doing what he's got to do. They're wrapping it up with nice studio vocals. The drummer is solid, and that's very important to this album. And, Vinny Chaz, I mean, it's not standing out one way or the other, bad or good. It just works. It's a decent rhythm section. Dave.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the vocals here. On the album, all the other guys in the band are credited with backing vocals. However, there is also two gentlemen also credited with vocals, Matt Bradley and Phil Balvano. They are credited with vocals. And
Now,
then,
vocals or backing vocals?
it says vocals
Mm.
on
Interesting.
Wikipedia, but I don't have the album in front of me here.
Oh,
Yeah.
Dave, there's definitely another singer singing on the lead track with Steve
Mm.
Summers. 100%.
So I'm not familiar with those gentlemen and their work. And there's also a group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ladies who are credited with backing vocals.
And
That's
you can
why
hear
it
them.
sounds so good.
Yes, and you can hear them 100%.
Yes.
Yep. So
Ladies, you did amazing.
yeah. So that's maybe your answer right there,
Yeah.
where the studio magic is coming
That's
from.
why I like it so much.
Yes.
All right. So rock and roll is going to set the night on fire. I watched the video along with this one. I love the chugging guitar setting up the song. They do not have super deep lyrics here. It's Friday night. We're going to hit the lights. It's you and me.
Hey,
We're going to rock and roll all night.
all night.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
These guys look like my Aunt Bernice, but it's cool. It's all right. Great stage set in that video with a band name so big you could read it from a plane.
Yeah.
Christy Crash Majors kind of looks like a dime store Tracy Guns, but then again, so do I.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice Tommy Lee moves and faces from their drummer. They have the classic formula of all the guys with black hair and one blonde guy. So, that's they're on the money right there. We got some cowbell in the song, which is awesome. Christy even sets his guitar on fire and smashes it at the end before everybody raises their guitars up in the air like they're the Tusken Raiders in Star Wars. And then the fireworks go off. Awesome.
Mhm.
Totally awesome.
Oh, God. All right. Lisa.
Or
did it.
Vinnie Vincent in his video for
Holy shit.
Oh, surprised
that
they
further.
they lined up these two bangers back to back on this album. They didn't give some fillers in between, right?
Yeah.
are no
Mhm.
fillers on this album.
There are no fillers on this album. No,
Oh,
Dave, you're right.
Dave.
There are no fillers on this album. I
No.
agree.
So again, we have the gang vocals that sound so great to me through this whole album. We get a catchy kind of 50s riff. Sounds suspiciously like the Look What the Cat Dragged In album to
Doesn't
me
it?
a little bit.
Doesn't it? Like a
Um,
demo version.
Yeah. Another extremely catchy chorus. A little tempo change that only lasts for a few seconds when he says "yeah," but I really like that part. Some of the lyrics are a bit off. We're the baddest boys, making noise, breaking the chains. What do you say? Come on,
Yeah, what does that
guys.
even mean?
Oh. And then he introduces Crash for the solo, like, "Hit it, Crash,
Yeah,
just like Brett
yeah.
calls for
Come on,
CC."
CC, and then it's the
Yeah.
same solo, but it's just not a good version of it.
Yeah, this is a Poison homage, I
This
think.
is a Poison stolen
Yeah,
song.
yeah. I'm not hating it because I took it for what it is. It's a fun 50s kind of song, and
Yeah.
we get some cowbell. The bridge drops in, and we get some screams. But there's a high note in there that he misses completely. I don't know if you noticed that. It was just like, oh God, that was
Ugh.
not a good note. Um, I'd like the song to be longer. It's like super short. I love the stick ending. Again, we have the second stick ending on this album. Beautiful how they do those endings. But at this point, I'm noticing something a little weird about the production of the album, and I didn't totally notice in the first song. I'm hearing a lot of things that sound tinny or fake or like some trickery. So I
Oh yeah.
don't know if this is overproduced so much that it feels fake, or is it woefully underproduced so that's like a demo? Like, which is it?
I think there's a lot of punching in and out,
Yeah,
specifically on Christy Crash's guitars. There's solos, and we'll get to it, but there's solos where like you can tell there's like 3, 4 punches and it's pieced
yeah,
together, and
pieced together.
it makes it sound herky jerky. And I heard
Yeah,
drum parts put in like that, like those hi hats. I swear those were put in after the fact. Am I
yeah.
right here?
Well, and that's why I thought they were synth because
Yeah.
they weren't in the same layer that the rest of
Yes.
the drums were. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. I
Yeah,
heard that. I heard that on this album
yeah.
100%.
So that's
Yeah.
I think the production is just kind of janky here.
But again, I think it's the because this guy was working with
Yeah,
musicians that weren't up to the task. So
yeah.
he's
How
like,
do
we'll
I
get
put
the
this
punch.
together?
We'll get the
Yeah,
punch. Just play. I'll get you in. I'll get you out. I'll get you
yeah.
in. I'll get you out. Next thing you know, got a guitar track with 400 punches.
Yeah. So this one obviously has a video, as Dave focused on for his whole talk. It
Yeah,
starts with a hail of bullets. I don't know if you saw that.
I
And
did.
I wonder if that affected how often that MTV played it, because I don't think they could have played that kind of intro. Um,
Yeah.
so, I definitely saw it back in the day, but oh my God, what a great freaking look this band has. All the black hair, the pretty singer, the perfectly styled clothes, the costumes, the coordinated dances and spinning and deep knee bends and guitar face and the hair blowing with the fan, and we get to see like, and this is funny. This is where I was like, oh look, the band is singing backups and they sound so great, and I'm like, oh, it is the band that's singing backups. It's not the band that's singing
Oh,
backups. But they had everything. I think they just came a tiny bit late for this bubblegum glam. Had it been 86, maybe it would have been bigger. I don't know. So
yeah. I mean, this isn't Millie Manilli, but it's not far off. I mean, Steve Summers sang some vocals on this album,
Mm,
but there's a lot more other people singing on this than just him.
yeah.
Uh,
I'd like to go in the studio with Howard Benson and pull up the vocals and be like, okay, Steve, vocal 1, Steve, vocal
yeah.
2, 20%,
Yeah.
the band gang vocal, 20%, and
Yeah.
then all those professional choir singers,
Here's
60%.
Mm,
here's the deal. If the band had done the background vocals and Steve Summers had been the only lead vocal, this album wouldn't be listenable. They could have
mm.
never even sold one copy. So they knew what they had to do. Yeah, Dave gave a TED talk on the last song.
Yeah.
So okay, track number 3, Wild Angels. Oh, man. So the first time I listened, I was just like, this is fucking hot trash. But then I went back and listened. So I know this isn't amazing, but the nostalgic memories got me enjoying it. And that's the problem with doing an album like this. I can't objectively review it. I know the vocal is shaky, but I liked it. And the lyrics weren't that bad. There were some like, they slipped a couple of stupid lines in that were cool and it didn't really make a ton of sense, but I appreciated it. Unfortunately, this song fell to pieces at the guitar solo and it never recovered. Like once Christy Crash breaks into this solo, it's a terrible solo. The band doesn't even know how to play around them. And then they are unable to exit out and get back into the song properly. But we do get the mystery singer banging out some great harmonies at the end of this thing. I enjoyed the song.
Mhm.
Now that's 3 for 3. I've enjoyed 3 for 3 on this. Dave.
There you go. Right on cue, song number 3, we got a ballad. Some sweet acoustic guitar. The song kicks in during the pre-chorus with some overly heavy guitar and some harmony licks leading to the infinitely sing-alongable, I just made that up, chorus, like almost all these songs are.
Yes.
Great choruses. Good guitar solo that doesn't try to get too flashy. I didn't mind it.
Wait, what did you wait? What word did you use to describe the solo? I missed it.
Good.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, not too flashy.
Okay. Good. Perfect.
Another cool breakdown in the middle here too, ready for in-concert audience participation. Unfortunately, the lead vocal ends with a flat note. His very last note was flat. How did Howard Benson not have Steve re-sing that note?
Or adjusted. They adjusted everything else on this album.
I'm sure Howard Benson by this that was just like, he can't fucking sing. It's fine. Go next, next. Like after the 400th punch in, he's like, we're not punching it again. I've already woven together 4 guitar solos for this Christie guy that can't play. 400 punches. The solo sounds so janky. It's like, does anybody play guitar in here? Sorry.
The tape is worn out by now.
Holy shit. Lisa, talk about it.
Oh, here's the freaking ballad, right? This one starts out like syrupy sweet, and I think back in the day, I'm trying to remember like little young teenager me. I think I ate this right up, and I wanted a guy to sing a song like this to me. It does not work for me now. I did not like it. My style is too dark now, and I just went, ugh, this is just almost unlistenable. I like what the lyrics are about. Being with a girl and running away to Hollywood. And, that was the dream for me back when I was, 13, 14 years old, right? It doesn't hold up for me today. It's too syrupy sweet. I'm not a sweet person. I need some edge. I need something darker. Yeah. It does have a really catchy and memorable chorus. And I don't know if you noticed, but we set the night on fire. I lose some of the instruments on this though. The vocals are way forward in the production, and like it's just so that it sounds like a demo to me.
It's 100% done intentionally because
Yeah.
it just wasn't good enough.
Yeah, the guitar solo again, it fits the song, but again, I'm going, it's just kind of lame, and there could have been something so much better here. I like the bridge where it gets sleazy, and if the whole song was like that, I think I would like it a lot better. That part kind of held up for me, but the rest of the song, oof. No official video on this one. There is a small amount of live footage, but nothing recent.
So let me ask you guys this question. If these guys visually look like Fastway, would you still be loving this record?
No.
Not as much.
So
No.
if Christy Crash looked like the guitar player of Fastway, Dave, would these solos still be pretty good? No. They
Almost.
suck. They
I would
suck.
never have found the album in that
Exactly.
case. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, 48 Hours, track number 4. I heard that alarm clock go off and a big smile went across my face. It's cheesy and basic, but damn if it isn't fun, right? The solo again is very shaky. Christie just wasn't playing at the level he needed to be to record this record, and it fucking hurt this album bad. It hurt the album bad. It hurt the album worse than Steve Summers. Like that's how bad Christy Crash was playing on this record. Steve did the best he could with what he had to offer, but it just falls short of where it needed to be for this song to be a hit. And the shame of it is there is at least one hit song on this album, like Talk Dirty to Me. Like the writing is there. Like there's probably 3 songs on this album that could have been in the top 5 at any time during the late 80s. But the 2 most important players in the band, the guitar player and the singer, were not up to the task, no matter what this magician of a producer and his gang of vocalists tried to do. But
His army of singers.
yes, but again, I still really enjoyed this song, and that's 4 in a row. These are catchy fucking choruses. Dave.
Yeah. Fun, bouncy groove to this one. The guitar solo does get a little sloppy. Great breakdown of the chorus in the middle, and then key change to lift the mood. It's not deep or intellectual, but you can sure sing along to it. 48 Hours to Rock.
Dave, Christy Crash kind of reminds me of Mick Mars when he starts trying to shred and he just kind of gets lost and starts like, yeah, fucking nobody will notice these 3 notes don't fit. Out of the key or whatever it is. Lisa, track number 4, did you like it?
So
Yeah.
this was in Karate Kid 3. I don't even know if I saw that movie. I think I did. I don't remember the song in it. I don't even
What?
know. Yeah, I
This
don't.
was?
Yeah,
Get the
this
fuck
Yeah, it's
out of
on the
here.
it's
soundtrack.
on the soundtrack. Yeah. This is the PBF one.
I'm gonna
Remember that
have
we
to
talked about?
I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to confirm
I,
this.
there's nothing in my memories about that at all. If there wasn't the Karate Kid 3 about the bonsai
Yeah,
store or
yeah, yeah,
something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw it, but I don't remember this
With
song in it.
Bad Brad fucking Barnes.
Yeah, yeah. A little bit bluesy, some discordant notes in the beginning. I feel like this is a familiar riff that I've heard before from someone else. Um, Cheesy lyrics that I can't really get on board with about a party on the weekend when there's no school. This is like what, the third or fourth song on this album that has the same, the
Sure.
same lyrics. I don't know. I'm
They all have those
there's only
lyrics.
so much partying on the weekend I can take, and I'm done at this point. Um,
We're tired.
Holy
and once
shit.
again, it's catchy, right? It's still, let's face it, it's empty, but it's catchy.
Yeah.
Sloppy guitar solo again fits the song, I guess, but um for some reason I love the bridge where he says like "ready boys," and it's so cheesy, but I still freaking love it. There's some fantastic live footage of them playing this in 1989
I've
that is an
watched it.
it isn't a feast
It's
for the eyes,
dude, it's
isn't it?
so good. It's so with
Oh,
the Pretty Boy Floyd fucking
beautiful.
the
The
things behind
banner.
them with
Yeah.
the paintings of them. Oh, it's
Yes,
so good.
it's freaking amazing.
It's like in a
Um,
club, like maybe a
yeah,
500 seater. Yeah.
yeah, it's a small club. There's also an audio recording of this song from 2019 by Pretty Boy Floyd with a different singer
Oh,
that has better production than this does, but it loses all of its charm with this new singer. He doesn't bring anything to it, and actually, I prefer the original, surprisingly.
nice.
Who's the singer?
You know what? I didn't even look. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
Holy
wonder what
shit.
the story was behind that.
Yeah,
I'd like to hear that version of the
it's
song.
on YouTube and easy to find, so
Oh,
go
cool.
take a
Go
listen.
check it
Yeah.
out. All right, track number 5. This is a Motley Crue song. It's called Toast of the Town. And I like this version actually better than the Motley Crue version. But, given the Motley Crue version is probably what, Dave? Like a 16 track or something, maybe?
Yeah, it's probably an 8-track demo or something.
8-track demo, exactly.
Who knows?
So again, I know this lead vocal is challenged, but it works here. And the chorus is really, really strong with this phantom singer. These guys are bringing this chorus. Like I could just see Steve Summers like sitting off to the side, drinking a beer, little tear in his eye as he watches the real singers fucking busting this fucking thing out, right? The drums, Lisa, here's where it happens. I
Mm.
heard it like you did in spots. The drums get a little wonky here in spots where it sounds like something isn't right. Couldn't put my finger on it, but it definitely stood out to me. Guitar solo, it's a fucking placeholder. It is a placeholder. And the guy is playing the most rudimentary, basic solos, and he is struggling on the struggle bus. Dave.
As we said, this one's a cover of a sort of unreleased Motley Crue song. The Crue version was most widely heard on the 2003 Motley Records CD reissue of Too Fast for Love, although the song originally appeared as the B-side to their debut single Stick to Your Guns from Leather Records in
Nice.
1981. I also like this version better than the Crue version. Who's worse singer, Steve Summers or Vince Neil?
Steve Summers, 150%.
Well, for 1986 Vince Neil, not 2024 Vince Neil, 2025
It's a real
Vince Neil.
battle royale
Yeah.
now.
They're about equal now, but if you put
Mhm.
Steve Summers vocals on Home Sweet Home, it's no longer a hit.
Yeah.
And Christie's MXR flanger is a great effect on the guitar that he uses in select spots to give it that jet plane sound. The background vocals add a lot, even though the intonation I thought was a little questionable in a couple spots. Their tune of some of the notes. The guitar solo is good. I thought it was more interesting on this one than Mick Mars's version, even though obviously Mick Mars is a way better player. On the Motley Crue version, it seemed like Mick was just kind of running through,
Placeholder.
stock licks.
Yeah.
So fists in the air for the middle breakdown, man. It's good. I like it.
Nice. Lisa, how's this album treating you about this
Oh
time?
God. So we know this is a Motley Crue cover. I'm using the word cover loosely because I think they tried to become Motley Crue when they sang this
Right,
song.
right.
Um, it, the interesting thing was that Motley Crue, they asked Motley Crue if they could do this song, and they were just like, "Yeah, go ahead." And nowadays, you would never be able to cover a song like that. You'd have to make some legal agreement, or be a big thing. It was like a gentleman's handshake agreement back in the day, which I thought was pretty cool. Um, and I do like the name of the song, by the way. I think that's pretty cool. I know that has nothing to do with Pretty Boy Floyd, but I do like that. Um, the song is dirtier and sleazier than others because, of course, they're trying to go the way of Motley Crue.
Yeah. Nikki Six wrote
Yep,
it.
Yeah.
it's catchy. The gang vocals again are gold on this. Um, his vocal on this is a little strange because he's not making the song his own. He's like literally trying to become Vince Neil, and
And
it
he's
isn't.
doing it.
Yeah, and it isn't a bad thing, and I wonder if he shouldn't have just done that,
No, he
across
did.
the
That's
board.
what the whole album is,
No, I mean,
that.
well, no, I think he still has his personality in some of the other songs where he doesn't here really. Um, the guitar solo follows the melody of the song with a little few flourishes. The Mick Mars solo is much better. Um, yeah, there's even like a couple of missed notes, and I was wondering if they used like a raw cut of this guitar solo, like how they leave mistakes in, and it's kind of okay. Like this one was pretty bad. Like, did they just kind of like do one take and was like, oh, that's enough, and
I
like
think he
never went back to it,
I
or
think he couldn't get the punch close enough, so he's like,
yeah?
"Yeah, good enough.
Oh
Just
my
leave it."
God. Yeah, it's really overproduced and it's kind of unbalanced for me. Sometimes you hear like fake drums when there's almost like two tracks of drums because they've layered it in some weird way. It's just really odd.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's the drums actually sound a bit metallic or even hollow to me. There's no video for this and almost no footage of them playing it ever. So
Yeah, the drums are definitely weird on that track and a
weird.
couple of the
Yeah.
tracks. So that ends side A. If you're listening to the show on vinyl, flip it over. That doesn't even make any sense. I say it every week. Just fucking do it. Just do it. So anything anybody like to bring to the table? I had a pretty boring week.
Boring week for me
Oh my
too.
God. Yeah. I'm just trying to deal with what's happening in the world and wondering if what's going to happen the next day. That's what I've been doing.
Nice.
Trying
I
to keep
think.
warm from the winter time.
Yeah.
All right. So there we
Yeah.
go. Let's move on to the second half of this album. Track number 6, Rock and Roll Outlaws. This is such a crazy fun song. I really like it. I really like the rhythm guitar. It's the first time I've said it on the whole album. I love the rhythm guitar, love the catchy riff in the beginning. We get some fun lyrics and we get yet another great chorus. But again, I can feel Christy struggling in the guitar solo. I know that it fucking is beating a dead horse, but it's just coming in and out of focus and it's just so janky. But again, I like the song. I mean, these guys are fucking 6 for 6 with choruses now. Dave.
Killer opening to the second side. Cool opening riff that rhythmically is interesting. I'm not great with music notation, but I feel like it might be in a different meter than other than 4 beats to the bar. There's something weird off time about it. A few hand claps in the mix too. I love it. Extra interesting lyrics in this one where you can sort of grab onto phrases like gypsies of the night,
Yes.
rebels and renegades.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, so cool.
I
The
heard
guitar
it.
sound on the whole album is delightfully trashy. No idea what kind of amps he used or anything, but it worked out okay for my ears.
Dave, that timing thing you're talking about, that was definitely not done intentionally. He's like, I'm going to play this in like 16 syncopatation. Syncopatation, Lisa.
It's not off time. We just screwed up.
Perfect. Sounds legit.
So I'm starting to realize that I really do remember this album. So I know I haven't mentioned it in the past few songs, but there isn't a song I've forgotten,
Me
which
neither.
which was notable at least for this song. And I was like, oh, I remember this one. But the songs are definitely starting to blend together for me. The same subject, the same chorus, the same messy production, and I really don't dislike any of the songs quite deeply, but there's just so much of the same that I'm starting to get tired.
Yeah.
The lyrics on this one are a little more complex, thankfully. I don't know if there was a different writer on this one or what, but we do get some more complex lyrics. And there's a part where he says, we'll shock the world and play our music real loud, that part. And he does that kind of drawn out whine at the end of that line. I love that. And that's the personality that I was missing in the last song when he was trying to be Vince Neil. I want that whine. I want to hear his personality. That's really the only part of his singing that I totally enjoy, is when he shows who he is, not
Yes.
tries to be someone else. Guitar solo unimaginative. Again, fits the song. Are all the songs just boring so that a boring guitar solo fits them? I don't know.
Don't do
Um,
too much. Christy's got to tag along.
yeah, yeah. And then there's this kind of pseudo bridge where he just says rock, shock. Okay, that's too much cheese for me. Now we've gone overboard.
No way.
I'm lactose intolerant. I don't need extra cheese. Like, okay, I've topped out on cheese for this album. And I have to keep telling myself these are supposed to be fun party songs, right? That's what I need to focus on, and they totally are. These guys aren't the best musicians. The production was kind of garbage, but I'm really getting tired now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thing. So track number 7, Only the Young. So I remember this one being a rocker, and it started off as like a ballad, and I was like, I don't remember that. What? So, but once we get and it's really bad. Like, this is probably the worst Steve Summers sings on the whole record. It's just this little intro. But once we get past this weird little ballad verse intro thing, it's a really great song. It's got a really great anthem chorus. I hate to beat a dead horse, but the solo is shaky as fuck. Like, it sounds like he lost his way in this one, and they were just like, "We're out of money." Like, that's it. That's the solo. Next. Overall, I enjoyed the song very much. Again, the chorus saved it. This is every chorus 7 in a row now. Anyone could be a hit. Dave.
Another ballad. Oops, maybe not. It kicks in almost right away.
Awesome.
We get some teenage rebellion. I get a little Twisted Sister vibe here. And you'll enjoy my note. Christy seems to get a little lost in the guitar solo. And great gang vocals in this one too.
Yeah, really good. Lisa, do you have a note about Christy's shitty guitar solo?
I do. Let's get to
Awesome.
that. So, but I had the same note that you guys goes, ooh, a ballad. No, it's not a ballad. Like, oh my God. So like you said, he sings like really horribly in the first few lines, and then the song kind of kicks in, and I'm like, oh, there he is, and it like he stops being shaky. So I don't know what happened with that, like why we lost his vocals in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lyrics are a little more introspective here, better than Bubblegum. It's not so bad. Um, they always despise the things we symbolize. There's no harm done. We're just having fun. I mean, what 14, 15-year-old can't connect to that, right? It's fine. This song has such a strange structure. I can't find the verse. Like, I'm lost. Like, where does the chorus start? Like,
What
the
is it?
arrangement, the arrangement is just a Wild West mess, right? Like, I'm kind of lost. Do we blame the band, the writer for this? Do we blame the producer for the arrangement? Like, where's the blame on that? Because nobody heard that. Come on, guys.
Just some odd choices, man.
Yeah. Yeah. This guitar solo is not fitting, but I actually do think it's a little bit more interesting than some of the other ones. So, but it doesn't fit the song at all to me. I feel like they worked harder on this song than any of the other songs with the guitar work and the lyrics. But this song doesn't have an identity, right? Is it a ballad? Is it an anthem song? Like, they pick one, and maybe it could have been a hit, right? They could have gone with anthem song and left the ballad part out, and I think it would have been a little bit better. No official video, not a lot of live footage. If you can stand to watch hours and hours of their full performances, they have played this many times over the years.
So for me, this album sounds like because the way it is, like we've said, all the choruses have been really good, right? So is this one of those cases where they'll be like, all right, give me a quote like 48 Hours to Rock, man. All right, that's a song. Let's write
Mhm.
some lyrics
And
like
they
that.
write a great chorus.
Yes, but then the
And then they're
lyrics
like,
are
"How
like,
do we do the song for this?"
yeah, man, like, like I pick you up at 8 and you're looking great. And like, we're gonna, it's, that's what it is. The fucking lyrics on this album are like 18-year-old demo band, but I love it. Track number 8, The Last Kiss. So this is a Lita Ford song. You might recognize it as Kiss Me Deadly. Um, the intro, it's such 80s cheese metal. This keyboard, kiss me once, kiss me twice, kiss me deadly.
Lita was
Steve,
great though, let's
yeah,
just say.
yeah, no, absolutely. Steve is not singing great here in the verses, but again, the gang of super studio vocalists come in and they save the song. Chorus is great. Um, it's another solid tune. I mean, I like it a lot. I just feel like I'm not sure exactly like who's doing what and what I'm listening to. Like how much of this is Pretty Boy Floyd, and I don't know. It's just kind of weird. It's a weird album. Dave, did you like the song?
I did. This one is very poppy. I love the keyboard doubling the guitar lick at the beginning. The lyrics are very like innocent teenage puppy love. There is some shoehorning of lyrics, uh, such as "Stay here with you, caressing you." Sounds very odd.
Doesn't
Uh, I
work.
I never knew what the hell he was singing there until I looked up the lyrics, and I can't believe that that's what it says. I like the guitar solo on this one, and another great chorus you can shout along to.
Nice, Lisa.
Wow.
I'd like to hear your notes on this song.
There's an actual kiss at the beginning. Ugh, no. Is the piano a toy piano?
What do you mean a toy?
I would assume it's probably a keyboard, but it sounds to me like a glockenspiel,
Yeah, that's
which
exactly what it sounds like.
which
Or a child's toy.
maybe they used a real one, but
Mm.
I would be tempted to think they just used a synth.
So when the song comes in, we've got pure bubblegum glory. But here's the thing: the song drops into a minor key and kind of holds there for a while, right?
Yep.
When Steve is singing with it, he can't do that. His voice wants to remain like sunny and bright and like major, and he can't do the minor chords, and it sounds bizarre. He can't. His voice doesn't want to be dark and brooding. Maybe that's why I grew out of this band so quickly, because I needed the darkness, and he only has like that sunny pop voice.
Steve can't sing in a minor key.
He can't. Yeah, and the lyrics are.
He can only sing in key Christy Crash majors.
Yes.
Can't sing in a major
Oh.
key either.
Yeah. So the lyrics are a little too sweet, saying goodbye to someone, very repetitive. I think they could have fleshed out the lyrics on this one a little more. It's too sticky sweet for me. I almost missed the guitar solo. I actually had to go back and like, where was the guitar solo? I like didn't even catch it. Sorry, it's not memorable. Sorry, Crash. I don't have super memories of this one back from the old day, but I think it was because I was listening to so much darker stuff and a lot of Depeche Mode and angsty goth music that this wasn't one that I wanted to remember. So
Yeah, poor Steve Summers. He did the best he could. Again, even a song like Every Rose Has Its Thorn, if Steve Summers sang it, it wouldn't have been a hit. If Brett Michaels had sang it and Christy Crash had played the guitar solo, it wouldn't have been a hit. It just wouldn't. Doesn't matter how good the fucking song is. And that goes for these songs. Maybe if CC DeVille and Brett Michaels did this album, it would have been a fucking huge solid gold super album. I don't know. Track number 9, Your Mama Won't Know. So, should I hate this overused topic of a song by now? Yes, but it's just fine. Is it talk dirty to me? No, it wants to be. But for what it is, it's just fine. I enjoyed it. It has a good bridge that leads into a catchy chorus. And you guys know how I like a good bridge into a chorus combo. Christy Crash, he almost got there here. He almost got there, but too many punches. Dave, you can hear the punches. The solo it's so janky and herky-jerky because he'd play like a good section and he'd try and get through the solo. You can hear it, and he would fuck up. And they'd be like, all right, well, we got the first quarter. We're going to punch in after this note. And that's why this solo sounds like
Swiss cheese.
yeah. So it has no flow, but he almost got there here. Dave, what do you think?
This song kind of reminds me of Rocky Horror for some reason. Maybe it's because of the similar feel to that "Damn It, Janet" song.
Yeah.
Maybe I just ruined it for everybody. Um, at least they're respectful guys. Quote, "We stopped fast when you said no." That's different for the 80s. Again, in this one, and maybe it's fake or maybe not, but the lyrics are almost 50s pop, teenage wholesome. Great drums, great guitar break in the middle.
Yeah, it's good. Lisa, what'd you think?
I have huge memories of this song. I don't know why this one really stuck with me. I definitely remembered it. Kind of like 80s lyrics mixed with like 50s kitsch. I like the gang vocals. We got another catchy chorus. All I want to know is if you will or if you won't. Okay, so we can talk about nice scream there from Steve, but we can talk about those lyrics. Is this a song that would be canceled, like that Christmas song where the guy tries to get, coerce the girl to stay with him? Baby, it's cold outside. That one.
Yeah.
That's what this song is like: is a guy trying to coerce a girl to do something, and ultimately, yeah, he takes her no, but it's a coercive song that today probably wouldn't work. I don't think.
Today sucks.
Yeah, and I mean, at least he's asking for permission. Like that's, I don't know.
Not on
I
the tour bus.
yeah, not in real life at
Not
all.
really.
Um,
Uh-oh.
yeah, I actually like the guitar solo on this one. It kind of makes up for the last few. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the second best solo on the album, and
Mm.
we're getting to the best solo album.
Oh, we might have the same opinion.
No, there you go. So track number 10, I wanna be with you. Guys, where were you? I was
Want to
waiting
be
for
with you.
I wanna. Okay, so there we are. So vocally, the verses on this one extremely challenged, extremely challenged. But it's iconic for me. I remembered every single word and I sang along with it on the couch. The chorus is fucking vocally rock solid. He did not sing on this chorus. I mean, maybe he did. I don't know. But it's a really great chorus. Christy saves his best solo for last. This is a nice little melodic guitar solo. Does some harmonies on it. It's really nice. I mean, he should have fucking just backed down a little bit, stayed in his fucking lane, stopped trying to do what he couldn't do, and just played this for the whole album. Even if it was boring, just give me this. Everything was solid. Everything was right where it was supposed to be. All the licks sounded like he knew them and could play them 100 times in a row. This is good Christy Crash. Again, it's cheesy, it's overly basic, but it's a lot of fun for what it is. And again, for the 10th time in a row, I really enjoyed it. And I cannot believe that that's how my review went throughout this album. Dave, what did you think?
Well, this it was the other song that had a video. This is the obligatory 80s black and white video. Their appearance is nowhere near as shocking in two-tone as it was in color. Mostly, in-house fake concert footage. Steve singing into a payphone to his lady friend. Not sure about the "Hey, we're in high school" lyrics. You might be able to pull that off at 23, but it sounds kind of weird when you're 65. um, okay, guitar solo, nice harmony parts. In the video, Steve's girlfriend arrives to the stage to pick him up, and then the other guys look sad until
Aw.
until some more girls show up to pick them up too. Aww.
Aw.
It's a little syrupy, but I'm surprised it wasn't a bigger song back in '89. And kind of an odd choice to have an acoustic guitar solo at the end. This would have been the place to have the big blazing solo.
Yep.
But then the album is over. Kind of a mellow ending to the record, but I will take it.
There's 1 second in this song that sounds like that Faster Pussycat song, House of Pain. Like for 2 seconds, I'm like, ooh, that sounds like a real record. And then it went away. So I was like, no. Lisa, what'd you think of the final track on the album?
Oh, this was the big memory song for me from this album. Probably one of the only songs that I've listened to since, and maybe not even in 20 years, but since my original listen. I remember loving this song back in the day. The beginning of the song, his vocal tone is a little weird and shaky, but again, and this is not the first time I've said this, a few lines in, he evens out. So I don't know what is up with that. Um, I love the chorus on this song. It's the main reason I remember this song. It's the main reason I loved this song. It's so simple. The great song name, worked into a great chorus. The gang harmony, and the bar chimes. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, this is my favorite guitar solo on the album. Um, and then we get this bridge, this kind of darker bridge with a different tone, and that was a good structural break for the song. This actually had a good arrangement, unlike some of the other songs. And we get more bar chimes after the solo, so I guess they
Sure.
had to get their money's worth out of it. Those things are like $200, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got to play them twice, right? Yeah, the acoustic playout was okay. Again, I also would have preferred a bigger guitar solo at the end as well, but I didn't mind the acoustic. I think if we had an even bigger guitar solo in the middle, then the acoustic solo might have been like a little better at the end. Um, as this song ended and I realized this was the last song on the album, I was like, oh, ballad at the end is a little weird. But then I sat back and I was like, wow, that was the fastest playback ever. These songs were short. Like this album is very short. Like this was just, it went by very quickly. So,
Dude, I think that like Trace Chrissy Crash probably done this little like acoustic thing like to keep time. Like this is where the big solo is gonna go, you know. He got
mm,
through the main solo, it was like really good to produce.
mm,
It's Chrissy's like, I'm gonna go get my like, no, Christy, you
Just
got
leave it.
it, man.
mm.
That acoustic thing was genius. You sure you don't want me to get my no? We're good. All right, so that's it. We have broken down Pretty Boy Floyd's Leather Boys with Electric Toys. I promised a hatchet job to Jay. Unfortunately, I was unable to deliver on that after my second listen, but I do think there were plenty of backhanded compliments given today. So there you go. So this week we will be bringing back the bonus track, and now it is time to release
The bonus track.
Out of respect for John Sykes, we will be reviewing Blue Murder's Valley of the Kings. After listening to this Pretty Boy Floyd album, this song felt like it was forged by gods and played by men that have forgotten more than you'll ever know. The drums are solid granite. The bass cuts through with next level runs. And finally, John delivers a pro vocal before unleashing his fucking killer guitar solo that probably had no punches on a black Les Paul. This was definitely not the guitar he was playing in the studio because it didn't have a whammy bar on it. It's a great song. Though it's not really my flavor, I can appreciate it. It is pushing 80.1 watts. And the video is amazing because John is wearing this amazing white suit. I don't even know how to describe it to you. And his hair is, it's a lion's mane. It's majestic. And then the bass player is, I can't even explain it. I can't even explain it. It's amazing. So there you go, Dave.
Yeah, go look up the video. Do yourself a favor.
Do yourself a
Uh,
favor.
I was a big fan of John Sykes's guitar playing after finding out that most of Whitesnake's classic material was co-written and played by him. In addition to his work with Whitesnake, he also played with Thin Lizzy, Tigers of Pantang, and Blue Murder, who we are discussing today with their track Valley of the Kings from their 1989 debut album. The song opens with an atmospheric section of drums, bass, and keyboard and kicks in at the 1 minute mark. The song was written by John Sykes and Tony Martin. Great vocals, and you can hear his signature guitar sound. Uh, I don't really hear much of a hook in the song, but all the instruments sound epic. And of course, a kick ass guitar solo. I will say this song is way too long. It's almost 8 minutes long. You definitely get that Zeppelin vibe. At least the video is cut down to just under 6 minutes, much more digestible and better hair than a L'Oreal commercial.
So, what was your score?
Do we have to give it a score?
Well, we didn't have
Yeah.
to, but I thought it would be fun.
We just won't.
68.4.
68.4. You talked me into an 80.1 by bringing this to the show, and you're going to give it a 64.1. Fine,
Wow.
I'm going 64 too then,
Oh,
Lisa. No, I'm kidding. You can keep my 80. They're good musicians.
all right. Never heard of this band. Didn't know too much about John Sykes. It was a little bit before my time. Um, they have synth in this, almost like an electroclash synth, which is basically new wave and synth pop and techno mixed together. I'm already invested. I'm already invested when I heard that. I love that he's the singer and the guitarist. I didn't know he was so multi-talented. This probably explains why Coverdale wanted him out. And we've heard the story, obviously, of his exit, where he had already hired Adrian Vandenberg, and they were in the studio with Adrian recording this album when he basically told John Sykes that he was out of the band, and John Sykes flew in from England to the studio, and the fight happened between David Coverdale and John Sykes, witnessed by Adrian as he's re-recording the John Sykes part on the album.
That's not
Um,
uncomfortable.
yeah, not at all. And there is another story where maybe John Sykes went to the production company when David Coverdale was sick and said, "Hey, just let me be the front man." Um, no idea if that would have worked or not, but I'll be honest, just from hearing this song, I think he has way more talent than Coverdale does, both singing, what a voice, and playing. Great sustained high notes here. The lyrics are really complex. I got a little lost in the story. I don't know if it was because it was so long or because the lyrics are just kind of, if he's enunciating them correctly, but I didn't totally follow the story here. The guitar solo, friggin' fantastic. It showcases his skills, puts him in, maybe near virtuoso category. Um, Amazing that he doesn't have the presence of like a Steve Vai or a Stevens. Um, but again, this song is way too long. I would have liked it to be a little bit shorter. I did end up listening to a few other songs by this band, pretty good, and not really sure why this band didn't do very well back in the day. There was a lot of massive musical talent here. I'm giving it an 85.85, mainly on the musicianship
That's
of
what I.
the guys.
That's why I gave it the score too. The
Yeah,
musicianship, the songwriting is a
brilliant.
little bit like Dave said. It's a lot.
Yeah,
It's a lot. I can't listen to this song over and over. I'm too old now. It would take up half my life.
yeah.
Yeah, David Coverdale. No, can't replace Coverdale and Whitesnake with Sykes. Sykes obviously could handle the load singing and playing, but you need David Coverdale howling at the moon.
Mm.
Still, the night's not the same with John Sykes singing it in
It-
the video.
You're totally right, but I do think that this band probably should have been a little bigger than it was.
Yeah, cool.
So,
Cool. So if you want to give a score, go ahead. If you don't want to give a score, it doesn't matter because we don't
well,
keep a list.
80.85 for me, but we're not going to average them out.
Oh, we're not going to average it. Okay, so it
Yeah.
really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. We're going to just do a couple of little things. We're going to score it and get on out of here. So my favorite song is Rock and Roll Outlaws. The song I would cut would be Only the Young. Dave.
My favorite track, too many bangers to pick from. I will go with Rock and Roll Outlaws.
Oh.
As far as track I would cut, I am going to cheat a little bit. One of my CDs, there's a bonus track called Slam Dunk, which was that track that they did for the one
Movie,
soundtrack.
yeah.
That's not on the regular album. It doesn't need to be there. It's not great.
Cheating.
I think that's a cheat. You have to pick one off the album we listened to.
Oh, come on.
He
Come on.
can't. That's the problem. He's unable to.
Okay, you can think about it, Dave. I'll go to Lisa.
Yeah.
Lisa, what are you doing?
Okay.
So before I listened to this, I was sure my favorite track was going to be I Want to Be With You. And maybe back in the day it was, but today I am picking Leather Boys with Electric Toys.
Nice. All right. And which one do you hate?
I'm removing Last Kiss, very confusing, and No Identity.
Okay. I won't hold you to the fire, Dave. You can take this song off the other album if you like.
All right.
Okay, I would remove obviously Christy Crash from this band. I would obviously replace it with CeCe DeVille because it's a perfect fit. And you could also do the same with Bret Michaels and Steve Summers if you'd like. Dave, what are you doing?
I'm taking the opportunity to definitely nominate myself on guitar here again this time.
Nice.
For some reason, on my bucket list of bands I dream of playing on stage as part of, I'm not shooting for the moon like Led Zeppelin or Van Halen. It's Pretty Boy Floyd and LA Guns. I'm keeping it realistic. Too bad I'm not 25 anymore.
Dave, I think you have a very real chance at playing with Pretty Boy Floyd, okay? I think if you're willing to take a slight pay cut, you could probably get on that tour.
It's funny because my first gut reaction of this was to put Dave in this band. That's not what I chose, though, because I thought that was kind of copping out. But I also knew that he was probably going to put himself in the band, which he did.
Awesome.
I'm actually going to replace Vinny Chaz. And I'm gonna put Sammy Yaffa from Hanoi Rocks, New
Oh,
York Dolls, Joan Jett in there for a little more sleaze. He was also
Nice.
really pretty back in the day, but a little more rough around the edges. So
on behalf of Sammy, Lisa, screw you, man. Don't do that. I don't want to be in that band.
I know he wouldn't play in
No,
this, but yeah.
he would be deeply insulted by your
No,
pick.
totally. And you know
Okay.
what? We do have an in with the current lineup of Pretty Boy Floyd. We do know the drummer, so maybe we could speak to him and get you some work. So
There you
We'll
go.
see.
There you go. All right, let's do some final thoughts and we'll score it. Honestly, I don't know how the fuck to score this thing. I know it's a big bowl of cheese filled with janky, debatably bad everything.
Mm.
The strength of the album is the songs, though, and it does have 10 great songs. It's a fun album, and I enjoyed every song, even after 35 years of not listening to it. So my score is an extremely janky 69.
Yeah.
Dave.
Okay. I will do some promo, some plugs for Pretty Boy Floyd right here. Their Instagram is Pretty Boy Floyd Band. You can find them on Facebook at Pretty Boy Floyd Official. And to book them to play in your town, email Chuck at artistww.com. At the end of the day, I don't care about the intrigue, the accusations, who wrote the songs, or that these guys are just normal people that maybe don't always make the right choices. I prefer to think of this band as glam shock rock aliens that just happened to drop off the perfect trashy sleaze metal album here with us in 1989. Sometimes it's better not to look behind the curtain of
Yes.
showbiz. I love the songs. I love the guitar playing, the drumming, the backup vocals, and the party vibe. Good or bad, this doesn't sound like anything else. If you don't know this, but like 80s glam rock, like Poison and Motley Crue, do yourself a favor and give this a spin. You might like it. If you are a dude that was disappointed that the hot chicks on Poison's first album were dudes, maybe it's not for you. The whole album is 37 minutes long. It goes by in a flash. In my personal iTunes, I have it rated at a full 5 out of 5 stars. My final score, 125. Ha ha ha.
So, ouch.
Now, to keep it realistic, we're going to go DeLorean speed, 88 miles per hour.
88 miles per hour. Lisa, you got to do the right thing here.
Yeah, well, this album didn't hold up for me, unfortunately.
Good.
It is 100% not my style. I grew out of this style almost as quickly as I listened to the album back in the day. I do have a lot of nostalgia for the album, and I did find things that I liked, and I did find some songs that were okay. Back then, I didn't notice the bad production. I didn't notice, that there was another singer. I didn't notice that the drums were, flashed together like Frankenstein. Like, I didn't care. Now I do, right? Back then, it was just fun. And I've said before about some other albums, not everything needs to be a virtuoso symphony. Sometimes music can just be fun. And that is definitely what this album is. They still play today with their original singer. I've never seen the lineup live. We do have a friend in the band. Hopefully, they'll come around and play at some point. I've watched lots of live videos of them, lots of interviews. They're pure fun, even till today. They interact with the fans, and of course, I like that too. I'm giving this album a 61.4.
We heard it very similar. We did. Okay, so we'll add those up. And dude, listen, if this album isn't in last place, then there's a problem. Okay, because we have a lot of real musicians on our list here. So let's go.
Okay, on the Violent Vinyl album chart, Pretty Boy Floyd,
Yes.
Leather Boys with Electric Toys, released in 1989, comes in with a total score of 72.80, putting them at number 10 on the chart, right below Whitesnake's 1987 and right above Extreme's Extreme.
Dude,
10, baby.
that is the best the formula has ever worked. Like this, it works because that is right where it belongs. What did I say? I'd listen to this before I'd ever listen to that Extreme album again. And
That's
Whitesnake is
exactly
better.
where it ended up. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. That's great. All right. So there you go. Next week, Lisa I'm sorry, in 2 weeks. Lisa, you have got the pick. So tell us and the listeners what album we will be digesting for the next 2 weeks.
Oh, I hope you're gonna like this.
Me too.
So my pick is my very best girlfriend's favorite band of all time. I am choosing the 1984 self-titled debut album of Wasp.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Wild Child, Blind in
Yeah.
Texas.
Mhm.
Oh, I almost picked that one. I almost picked that one already. So good. You want to give a shout out to your very best friend?
Janae,
Oh,
the promoter extraordinaire of New England, who really has put together the metal scene in this area, promotes all the shows, is behind most of the big acts coming into the area. She's not just a promoter; she's also an event photographer, and we together work for a lot of the larger traveling bands doing merch when they come around. So.
awesome pick. I'm super excited. All right. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with Hey, Did You Ever See That Movie? Our sister podcast, where we will be reviewing Josie and the Pussycats. So there you go.
Oh, great
Love that
movie.
movie.
Awesome. I've never seen it, so I'm looking
Oh,
forward
it's
to it.
amazing.
Okay. Until next time, take those albums out of the sleeve and let the music breathe. See you later.